thank you so much for coming out and supporting the American Cancer Society. I am a 20-plus year volunteer for the American Cancer Society. I have held many different volunteer positions, and there's one change that has been quite dramatic over the last probably 7 to 10 years, and that is where the money's going. When I first started, about 72 cents of every dollar went to research. It went to funding our services. And now I can tell you that number is about 79 cents of every dollar is going to support research. It's going to support our website. It's supporting researchers in educational situations. I don't know if many of you know this, but the American Cancer Society gives out millions and millions and millions, and now closer to $5.5 billion to research. And we tend to fund the early researchers who are earlier in their career. And last year, one of our researchers was granted a Nobel Prize for their research. That person was ACS's 50th Nobel Prize winner that was sponsored by the American Cancer Society earlier in their career. And it was also the first female researcher that won that award that was funded early on by the American Cancer Society. So tremendous success for what we're doing. The other big change that we've seen in the last 2 years is we have a new CFO, a new CEO, and her name is Dr. Karen Knudsen. She's the first woman to ever run the American Cancer Society, and she's also the first woman running the American Cancer Society who also ran the National Institute of Health Research Hospital. So her focus and her determination is about reaching out to different areas in our communities. The first thing she did was reach out to cancer units, hospitals, smaller communities that were not getting the services that they really need. Diversity is a huge focus of the American Cancer Society. We should not base our survival on where we live. Where we live should not determine what kind of services are provided to us. So we're working desperately to get equal services to people in all communities. The other side of the American Cancer Society is the Cancer Action Network. And that is it's our sister organization, and that organization fights cancer on the legislative side. So some of these successes that we have had in the last couple years, about 4 years ago, we won probably a 15-year battle with Big Tobacco, and we increased the amount of sales tax on every pack of cigarettes by $2 here in California. Tremendous win for us. Last year, 2 years ago, the California voters voted they did not want flavored tobacco to be sold in California. They did not want it here. Huge success because millions of our high school kids and hundreds and thousands of our junior high school kids are using these. They're vaping. And we have no idea the destruction that it's going to do to their body because the FDA has not researched any of this. When Juul first came out, one single pod had the, what's in cigarettes?
Nicotine.
Nicotine, that's it. Had the same amount of nicotine in a full pack of cigarettes. Nobody knew that. Nobody knows what that's doing to a child's brain. They also don't know what happens to it when it gets heated. I was part of a group over at MJC, and there were respiratory people, and that was their big concern, is when this stuff gets heated, what happens to it? And what happens to it when we ingest it? So California said, we don't want that trash here, we want it out. Well, Big Tobacco spent $30 million to get it back on the ballot in November of 22. And guess what happened? We said no, we still don't want it, we're sure, we're really sure. So California can no longer sell flavored tobacco, including menthol. Huge success for us. but now it's the implementation. It's the getting the sales out of the state. So that's our next focus. Our other next focus is biometric research. We had a bill that passed through both houses here in the state of California, and because we didn't have people in the room, it was vetoed by the governor. He didn't have enough information. So we're working again this year on a biomarker testing piece of legislation that all insurance has to cover it, not just private insurance, but anything run by the state, anything run locally, it needs to cover biomarker testing. And the reason that that is so important is that 65% of all pharmaceuticals now require biomarker testing because they're getting very specific in targeting what's in that tumor. So biomarker testing, if you have a tumor, they take a sample of it and they determine what's driving it. And based on what's driving it, they pick the medication that works best. We have volunteers that have saved thousands of dollars in chemo because the biomarker testing told them it would not work. So it seems like a no-brainer because it would save a ton of money up front by knowing what we need, but we just need to get it past the governor's desk. So that's our big thing that we're working on this year. Back to the American Cancer Society, the last 3 years, we have seen a over 2% decline in mortality rates. That is huge. We've never had 3 years of decline at that rate. And what that turns into is about 17 million survivors that are walking around because of what y'all do. Fundraising is everything for us because that's what funds the research. And the research is what's going to find that cure. In 2022, I lost 2 brothers. I lost my oldest brother to pancreatic cancer. Story of 2 extremes. My brother woke up on Thanksgiving morning and had a massive heart attack. A week later, he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and he passed away on January 19th. He knew he had it. He knew it was there. He had fought cancer before, but worked at the Pentagon, Marine Corps officer. I can get through this. And he can't. He didn't. His oldest daughter just got engaged. She's going to get married next year. His second daughter graduated from Virginia Tech. She's working at Sotheby's. His third daughter is now an officer in the Navy, and his youngest daughter is starting high school. My other brother-in-law, they knew he had cancer. They couldn't find it. Couldn't find it. They thought it was a mass on his liver that came back clean. We came back from burying my brother in Arlington and found out that Bob, his cancer was in his stomach. We lost him on June 17th, almost 6 months to the day. So please, be aggressive. Be your own advocate. If something doesn't feel right, get it checked. If something feels a little bit off, get it checked. There's no harm in going to your doctor and saying, hey, something doesn't feel right. It is way better to go and find out it's something simple or going and finding it early in the process because we have lots of tests and lots of statistics that show the earlier you find it, the more likely you are to survive. So if you didn't hear anything else of what I said today, thank you. Please hear thank you. Thank you for what you do. Because of you, millions of people are walking the planet today as survivors, and we can't do it without you. So thank you so much for being here today and everything that led you up here. Have a great afternoon.